CBS News Colorado, we like to stay as transparent as we can by going behind the story with your reporter. And today we're switching things up a little bit after a few of us won nationally recognized awards for the work we've been putting in. So let's go behind the story of CBS Colorado's Gracie Awards. And joining me today is CBS Sports Colorado anchor Romi. Thanks so much for joining me today and talking about all of this. We're talking about the Gracie Award. You won for Best Sports Talent, which is awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. You won too, so I don't want to take that away.
We're talking about
both
you
of
right
us,
now.
but fine. It's just such an honor, especially in the world of sports, to be recognized by something that is for women, by women. It just does feel like it means a little more, especially when we talk about the sports world, always making this push to empower women in sports. It's truly humbling.
Yes, and you know, we know that you work around the clock.
Yes.
We do know that. And for those who don't know, the Gracie Awards, they recognize women, as Romi said, in all areas of media and entertainment. So I want to show the list of other winners from CBS News right now. I mean, look at that. Gail King won for her contribution to CBS Mornings.
I'll be on a list with Gail King any day.
Isn't that crazy?
You.
I know. And CBS business analyst Jill Schlesinger, she won for CBS News Radio's Jill on Money. And I'm pointing this out as a humble brag because you and I, we're in good company on this list.
It is. It's kind of overwhelming when you see those names on there, and then I see my name on there as well. I'm like, who put the typo on there? But it's truly an honor.
No, it is well deserved for you, Romi, for sure. And we want to give you a look at some of what Romi gives us while she's out and about.
The streak is over. 2,964 days later, the Broncos have beaten the Chiefs.
Then not only was this place was rocking, the Broncos were playing Shake It Off by Taylor Swift as the Chiefs were leaving the field. Don't tell us to calm down, folks. It took 8 years. We've been waiting 8 years for this.
Welcome into the season finale of Coach Prime's Playbook. And boy, when I say we saved the best for last, we got not one, but two Sanders in the house, 2 21s.
Does it kind of feel good to, like you said, despite the media, kind of stick the finger up? You proved it to everybody.
Definitely does feel good.
All in all, we started about 8 a.m., we end at 11 p.m., and it is my favorite way to spend a Sunday. Thanks for coming along. Love ya.
Oh, I always love watching you so much. Tell me what the best and least favorite parts about traveling and all those long hours, because you go everywhere.
Yes. The craziest part about working in sports, I always say, is the hours. That's probably the biggest detractor, but everything else is so incredible. And traveling is my favorite part of the job because it's the best way to be in the action and really bring fans along, fans who don't have the opportunity to travel to these amazing games and the best way to tell a story, I talk about with sports, when you're telling a story, it's over an entire season. So that can be an entire year. I refer to it as like building a house, right? Mm-hmm. You build the dirt, you build the foundation. So to be able to bring fans along for every piece of that is just so fulfilling to me. And I just love being in the action, and I'm not good at sitting still either. So that also works out.
We know
to be
that.
Out and about.
Yeah, no, the one thing I really remember is when the Broncos were playing in London and you went to London, but you not only told us the story about, what was going on with the Broncos, but you told us all about London. So we did feel like we were there with you.
Well, and that's kind of the fun part too about traveling. It challenges me. Sometimes it's easy to talk about the game and what's going on and the X's and O's because I do that all the time. But the challenge of bringing people another element of where we are, a non-totally sports-focused piece, it's a great challenge. It helps me grow a lot, and it makes it hopefully fun for everyone.
Yeah, it is. So last year you took over as lead anchor. How does that feel now to be the top woman in sports in Denver?
You know what? It's incredible. I remember when we were discussing the job and our news director, Christine, said, I want to make sure Denver's ready for this. And the way Denver has embraced me has been and all of Colorado has been so rewarding. And I think for me, it just emphasized how much more I need to continue to put the work in. I know I only got here because of the work I put in and the people who supported me. And so, one, I didn't want to let those people down and then say, oh my gosh, what a terrible mistake we made. But also to just keep putting the work in, not just for me, but for all the women that are going to come after me so that this is no longer a surprise or you're the Jenny Kavanaugh, who's the first woman to be a primary play-by-play caller, said it perfectly recently. She said the best thing about being the first is knowing that you're not the last. Right. And I've really, really kind of taken on that mantra since I heard her say that.
I think it's going to be so great when this becomes a norm.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So what's next for you? Do you know?
What a great question. I don't know. Of course, we've got Avalanche and Nuggets playoffs coming up. So in the immediate, I'm most excited for that. We've got DU hockey. We got a lot of stuff. But I don't know what's next. I think that's the great part about this journey is that just continue telling these stories and bringing fans along. And of course, being from Colorado, it's so great to always get to tell the Colorado sports stories, the teams that I grew up cheering for, literally and figuratively. And so I don't know. I don't have a good answer for that. But, you know.
Well, it's going to be right here anyway.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Enough about me. I'm going to put you on the hot seat
I'd rather
now,
talk about
Michelle. You won the Gracie. I know we're the same. No, you do it. For your work on the Border Crossed Us special. Incredible, incredible piece. How did this come to mind?
So this is a story I had been wanting to tell for a really long time. It was about the Chicano movement. I always heard so much about it. Some of my family members were a part of the movement. Some of my family members chose not to be a part of the movement. And so it's a story that's really important to my community, to my family. And so it was something that I wanted to tell, and the timing was right, and yeah, it became a passion project.
It's an incredible piece. Everybody needs to see it, and if you haven't, let's take a look.
The 1960s was a tumultuous decade in the U.S., a time of war, protest, and national tragedies. The Black Civil Rights Movement heated up. The Women's Liberation Movement began, and Chicanos were protesting for equality, education, and better wages. Colorado was no different. Denver, including here at La Raza Park, became the site of many protests, walkouts, strikes, and cultural events that would challenge the status quo and raise awareness.
Discrimination became more prevalent, like the signs that we had in the restaurant that said no Mexicans or dogs allowed, okay? So people were starting to see, hey, well, why are we putting up with all this crap?
Chicanos were tired of mistreatment. On Denver's west side, tensions were continuing to rise between Chicanos and law enforcement.
We always knew that our relationship with the police was not there to serve and protect us. It was that if you got caught in the wrong place or if you were doing the wrong thing, the bad things could happen to you. And our parents just told us, just get out of the way, get back home.
No, we need to see the whole thing. Okay. Joining us now is CBS News Colorado at noon producer Raetta Holdman, who co-produced this special and also won a Gracie Award. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Both. Teamwork. I'm curious, how did you guys come up with this title?
Okay, so I'm going to let Raetta tell one part of the story. So there is a saying that so many people in the Chicano and Latino community know, and it's, we didn't cross the border crossed us. And that means when the border literally moved and made the southwestern part of the United States, so many families were affected, but we're here. I often get asked, where are you from? Or where's your family from? And I say, in the Walsenburg area. But no, your ancestors, like where, like way, you know, many years ago. And it's like the Walsenburg area, before this was the United States. And so, so we talked a lot about that, and that theme just runs, you know, there's that common thread that just runs through the whole special.
She was very reluctant to actually do it.
Yes.
She was like, no, I just think we should call it something else. And I was like, it affected me so much, because I am a woman who grew up in rural Missouri. I know about the Trail of Tears and no idea about the real impact of the Mexican-American War and what it meant to these families and how it changed their citizenship overnight. And in many cases, they lost so many rights. They lost land, they lost rights, they became second-class citizens in a place where they had been, you know, very productive and successful. And so I felt it was really important. And then somebody came to me and said, I don't understand what it means. And I was like, well, it literally means the border crossed them. And then so we made a point of making sure we explained that very well up front.
Right.
And also, I know that Dave Aguilera said that he was a little concerned about the title when he first saw it. But then he said, once I saw the piece and how you guys did it, he was like, it was so empowering to actually see that, because a lot of people see it as aggressive, and it's not meant to be aggressive. It's just a fact.
And I think that's what Raetta was really trying to get me to see, because I just thought, I don't want to be too controversial. I just want, you know, I want people to kind of just know the story, and I don't want them to be turned off right away. And so we would come to these stalemates, and she would say, well, we have time, so we'll talk about it later. We'll talk about it later. And I'm so glad that she pushed for it, because it really, I think it just, it tells the story without even watching the story, right?
I love the behind-the-scenes insight, because when these incredible pieces come together, you realize it takes a little bit of friction sometimes to really tell such a good story, and I can feel the passion from both of you. Michelle, specifically, can you talk a little more on your family connection and how this impacted your childhood?
So anyone who knows me well knows exactly where I'm from. I always say North Denver, the north side. And so much of the movement happened in the north side and west side of Denver. And my family connection to it, like I said, some of my family members chose to be a part of it. Some chose not to be a part of the movement. This was in the 60s. And West High School, which we talk a lot about in the special, that was really the jump-off moment of the movement. And my mom, that was in 1969. My mom was a senior at West High School, the newspaper editor, the high school newspaper editor in 1969.
Wow.
And the day of the big walkouts and that big protest, my mom was actually at another high school for an essay writing contest. She said that she got out of the essay writing contest, got into her car, turned on the radio, heard what was going on at her school, rushed over there to get the story and to put it in the high school newspaper. I mean, there were so many connections. Pretty much everybody we interviewed in that special has a family connection, and so it was really important for me, and it's part of my history.
Yeah.
So, and it's a part of Colorado history, and quite frankly, U.S. history.
And we're so grateful that you guys were able to share this with us. But one thing about TV, no matter how long, if it's a segment or a special, is you just can't put everything in, and it's so hard to decide what goes in, what didn't. What do you wish that you had time to put in the special that didn't make it?
Isn't that the toughest part?
Oh, yeah.
It was the toughest part about this.
Yeah, we had a lot of it. Part of it was with the West High School thing, they were protesting because they weren't being taught their history. And so that eventually led, not in the moment, but down the road, quite recently, the new laws requiring more Latino and Chicano history to be taught in our schools. And I think that's something that we just didn't get enough time to embrace and explain, that this movement did lead to changes, even if it took years.
Yes. And there were so many other actions that took place that were a part of the movement that we just didn't have time for. But Raetta does bring up a good point with, there is now a current law that says that people and students in Colorado need to learn that part of history. And that is something I did not learn in history class. So I would hear about things, I learned things from my family, but I didn't know a lot about Chicano history until I started independently researching it in college. And that shouldn't be the case.
Absolutely.
Especially because it's a part of our state's history, too.
Absolutely. And you just kind of touched on that. But what impression did the Chicano movement leave that Coloradans still feel today, and work that still needs to be done?
Well, I think the impact they had is, again, giving a voice, right, and addressing concerns and seeing young people be strong enough to say, this is wrong and needs to change. And also, it speaks to one of the things I think that I learned from the special, too, is just how much economic power that community has, because it's astonishing. It's like more than some countries.
We talked to former Mayor Federico Peña, and he said the economic power of Latinos is the biggest power, not only because of the money, but also the loyalty to certain companies. So now that's why you see a lot of major companies advertising toward Latinos, because there is a huge group that will buy the product and stay buying the product. So that was actually something that I had learned in that special too. And those are the effects of the movement, and just how people are still seeking that equality and still seeking to hear that voice. And what was so great about when the special aired, and it's aired a couple times after that, first aired in October, we've been receiving so many messages since then. And some of them that really get to me are, I finally feel seen, I finally feel heard, and that affects me, and I'm just like, okay, yes, because that's what we strive for.
Right, one of the best things you can have as a journalist. And I'm curious, this has affected so many people, to be recognized on a national level, which you guys deserve so richly. But what does that mean to both of you?
I think it's amazing. I don't know. I don't usually put a lot of weight on awards. This one, though, it feels a little different. And as you said, it's female related, and it's either work for females or by females. And look at these females on this desk right now. I mean, this is pretty awesome.
Yeah, it was. I was surprised, because I'm not one who puts a lot of stock in going in for awards, but I've been here a long time, and this is really a good one.
It's exciting.
Yes, it's very exciting.
Well, it's an honor for me to be sitting up here with the two of you.
Well, it's an honor for all of us to be sitting with each other. I love you. This is girl power right here.
Right here.
Yes. So thank you so much for this edition of Behind the Story on CBS News Colorado. And to learn more about Romi Bean and the border that crossed us or the Gracie Awards, you can head to our website. Just go to cbscolorado.com.